a terrible cost. His father-in-law, the Lord's first anointed, and his best friend Jonathan have lost. See that heartbreak when you.
In the silence of this moment, I can feel your presence near, holding every broken piece, wiping every hidden tear. When the night was cold and lonely, you were standing by my side. Through the storms that tried to break me, you became my place to hide. Every road I walked in darkness, every fear I couldn't face, you kept calling me so gently. Now I'm wrapped in your grace. You never left me, you never changed. Your love kept reaching through all my pain. I'm wrapped in your grace, covered in mercy, held by your love every day. No matter how far, no matter how lost, you always show me the way. Your light surrounds me, your peace restores me. Forever my heart will say, I'm wrapped in your grace. Wrapped in your grace. Every prayer I whispered softly, every touched the ground. You were listening from heaven, even when I made no sound. Through the valleys and the shadows, you remain my hiding place. Now my soul is singing freely, 'cause I'm wrapped in your grace. You never left me, you never changed. Your love can reach through all my pain. I'm wrapped in your grace, covered in mercy, held by your love every day. No matter how far, no matter everybody to get in here, you know. You always show me the way. Your light surrounds me, your peace restores me. Forever my heart. I'm wrapped in your praise. Wrapped in your grace. Now the morning light is rising, and my heart begins to I see one person in here. Thank you for coming in. I see 3 people in here. Thank you for coming in. Please hit the like button as you come in. I appreciate it. Thank you. Wrapped in your grace, you never left me. You never changed. Your love kept reaching through all my pain. I'm wrapped in your
grace, covered in mercy. Day, no matter how far. Good evening, everyone. I'm glad to see you here again this Saturday on July 11th. Of course, I'm celebrating my father's heavenly birthday today. He would have been 89 years old. Me and my nephew, we put the flag outside in front of the house and, gave him a salute and everything because he was a military veteran. So that's how I celebrated him today. And I am wearing my t-shirt here with the flag. Okay. Yeah, so anyway, I wanted to talk about what's going on right now all on social media about this situation. It's just been another young man who was also um out with some friends swimming with his teammates or whatever, and somehow he ended up drowning. I didn't get into the story because I'm trying not to get too emotionally attached to these kind of stories. I don't know what's going on. I wasn't there. I didn't see anything. I don't know these people, but I know these things do happen in our world that we living in, especially here in the United States of America. We're not a perfect nation here, and it's just some sickness that's been in this nation from, let's say, from the time the foundation of this country was being built. Um, like I said yesterday in a previous video, that some things are just going to be out here. And the thing is that we're going to have to learn how to find our way back to God and allow God to heal us through this moment of all of this going on. Um, for this family, keep them in prayer. I'm keeping them in prayer that they do receive the justice that they're looking for, or that if there was any you know, foul play, that they will get justice, you know. But it's hard to get justice when you got so many people just out here. No, I'm a female, you know. But what I'm saying is that it's just so many people out here talking about it and just keep every day just pushing this information out, and it's just making people more and more sick. The best thing to do is sometimes just allow the authorities to do their job. Well, just allow the authorities to do what they have to do. Um, just let the authorities do what they have to do, because you can't find justice with all that noise. I'm sorry. And and not everybody. I'm just gonna say everybody, but there's just some platforms that just need to be just tone it down a little bit. Like it's just too much, and it's making people sick. It's making people heart sick, and it's making other people get panicky and scared and say certain things, and it's just gonna bring more and more hatred out of people. The best thing you could do when this stuff is going on so rapidly, the best thing you can do is go into your prayer closet or go in a place where you can hear a good sermon, the God to lift you up. See, I can't fight for everybody out there because some people are just not Christians, and no matter how much you try to tell them certain things to at least bring them some hope and some comfort during a difficult time like this of losing your child or a loved one, and it happens mysteriously. I know the feeling. I know the feeling. We all dealt with loss with someone before, even in homicide. Okay? I know I share the story all the time about when I lost my nephew. He meant something to me. It was like a son to me. And it was very painful. But he didn't die by the police. He didn't die by no white person, no KKK people or whatever. He died by the hands of, and it hurts even more because, for me, because something like that happening to him from a white person, the way he was slain and killed, and or something like that happened to him by the police, I would have been like, okay, he put himself. But when it's your own people of your own skin color that felt your life wasn't meant no value, it hurts even more. You know what I'm saying? It hurts a whole lot more when your child is harmed by their own people. And that's probably why I'm saying to a lot of people out there to please stop talking about these incidents so much online. Let the investigation take its course. The family lawyered up. They got lawyers and people to speak for them while they have to deal with what they have to deal with at this moment. I saw them giving the father an interview. The mother was on the interview. She was talking about certain things, and I said, y'all out here running your mouth, but these people are quiet. So it's everything you saying right now can be used against you in that courthouse. Because when something like this happened, they should have had you on a gag. You should not be out here doing any press conference or nothing. We saw the playbook before. Black America. We saw the playbook before. And a lot of times we don't want to see that sometimes we run in our mouth too much. Yeah, the KKK, yeah, they suck. But I'm just saying, I know black people, you getting emotional. You got to stop being so emotional. Because we already know through history who these people are. Okay? Sometimes we don't want to take accountability for putting our children in harm's way like that. We don't want to. We don't want to come to the reality. God teaches us each and every day that how you supposed to stay in prayer and teach us how to watch things out in the world that can be harmful to you. How you have to learn that the world is just not that kind without Jesus. It's not that kind. Because I live in America. I'm an American. Why shouldn't I? Why shouldn't I? Why should I not support my own country, my own nation, regardless to all the bad things that's happening? It's bad things all over the world. There's racism, there's terrorism, there's all that all over the world. There's nowhere you can go in this world that you're not going to find. No, I wasn't kidnapped. I was born here by my mother and my parents. They had me here. I wasn't kidnapped. I lived in America all my life, never went anywhere else. And I'm just going to get this out of here because this is my country. Okay. Now, we all know these things from before, from our past. Don't forget the things of your past. Your ancestors went through this already. They showed you all the evil things that come out of these people. And I don't know. I don't have anything against any nationality of people. Trust me, I really don't. When I search my heart and I find the things that should not be in me, and I truly, truly am a person of humanity. I have compassion, I have humanity, I have feelings. But the thing is I try to tell people that the best place you can go in times of your troubles and you going through this heartache and this pain and this dealing with grief and dealing with loss is to fall to your Savior and he will help you. Not saying that he gonna bring Nolan back, but he will help you to see certain things that you won't believe how you just gonna get through this. I don't know how to explain it. If you're not a Christian, it's kind of hard for me to really explain how to how the spirit of God works. It's hard for me to explain how God moves in our life, how God allowed things to happen for a reason. Because sometimes things are being told to us. God is trying to get your attention. Things happen because God want to call you to Him, and sometimes He will have to allow certain things to happen to bring you to Him. And but some gonna stay out there. Some just gonna stay out there, and they just gonna lick the bitterness of their wounds. Okay. No matter how much you try to tell them, and you trying to comfort them, and you trying to tell them about Jesus, and you trying to hope they will eventually, pull themselves together and, you know, focus on God healing them and getting them through that difficult moment of their life, they still want all that attention. They want people to come over and say, "Oh, I'm so, girl, you going?" Some people like that. They always looking for sympathy, and they will drain you with it. They will drain you with it. That's why you have to know. Let this family. This just happened to this family. Know what? Nolan's body right now is being examined by some, special examinations. People that can find out what happened, if he was fighting for his life, because his mother already put out there and everything that there was some things missing from his phone. He had no pictures, no messages, no nothing in his phone. When she got a hold of his phone, they deleted a lot of things in his phone. This is what the mother said. And I said, wow. So as everything is starting to develop, information that is already out there, but I don't think the mother should be out there talking, and I don't think the father should be out there talking. If anybody should be talking, is their legal team or they spokesperson for that family, but I don't think they should be talking at all, because while she's talking and the husband is saying certain things. I saw it happen with Shanquilla Robinson, and look, she was beaten. We saw the video and everything. How she was whipped the beat down inside that villa. We saw all the evidence. But see, you black people, you said a horrible Brooklyn accent. Well, I can't help that. You don't have to sit here and listen to it. I can't help it. That's the way I talk. Well, anyway, like I said, we saw how Shanquilla was harmed. I mean, beaten, and how she fell, and how it looked like her neck broke or her back or whatever, and that burly girl was beating her up. We saw all of that, and there was no justice. And it's still, I mean, we saw this stuff. We saw it with our own eyes, but still there was no justice. Look at what happened with the young lady that recently just went all the way out to this place called um in Africa, okay, Tanzania, somewhere in Africa, to some safari out there, and moments, and then the next thing you know, for her birthday celebration and safari pictures and everything else like that, and then all of a sudden she committed suicide, and she was with a white man, and we all know she didn't do that to herself. Come on. Good evening. How are you, handsome messenger? How are you? Good to see you. Yeah, so we saw what happened to Ashley Janae. Feeling like she was safe to go all the way out of the country with a man that ain't even her husband. Okay? some random man she met online or however way she met him, and you took a trip all the way to a foreign, far away foreign country out of the United States of America, and next thing you know, your parents got to hear that you committed suicide, but this man ain't speak, didn't say nothing. You see how he stays silent, right? Notice the pattern. They stay silent while you be out there in the public asking. We don't do suicide like, I mean, there are black people that do commit suicide now. I ain't gonna say we don't, but not like in that kind of way. Not in that kind of way, you know. Not to go all the way to a foreign country in Tanzania and then, on some so-called, going on some spring break, or go get away with a boyfriend and then end up being unalived. That don't go with us. No, 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 no. We don't do that. But we do commit suicide, but not going to a foreign country to do it. We gonna make sure we do it where somebody can find us and bury us and funeralize us and everything. We don't do the suicide like that kind of suicide. You know what I'm saying? Of course. And that's what a lot of black people are falling into. You always feel safer around other groups of people than your own kind. And then you end up, those same end up group of people end up being the ones to harm you. You know, that's why I try to say I go fair. I'm just a fair player in the game of seeing justice and seeing wrong and right. And I always try to use good judgment. That's me using wisdom and discernment, because I know some black people who kill black other people, and it could happen with a group of friends with black friends. We saw what happened to Shanquilla. Okay, they were all black there. It wasn't no white people friends. She wasn't out with all white friends. She was with black friends. Okay. So that's why I say you got to be very careful how you are talking about this, what's going on now with Nolan, because it may not have been the white friends that did it. There was some black friends there too. Those are the things you got to look at. And they all young and they all wilding out on the beach. And then it's just certain things. And everybody say, yeah, his phone was deleted and he got off the boat. He couldn't get on the boat with his other friends, so he got on the boat with them. And then he went and they left. And they could be honest about it. We don't know. They not talking. They not out on social media. They not saying anything. And it was a mixed group of friends there. He was on the boat with the white friends, but there were also some black friends out there too. So we don't know. Me myself, I don't hang out with, you know, I don't do cliques. Put it this way, I don't do cliques. Most of my friends are spread it out, and most of my friends or don't know each other. I mean, they don't know each other. I met friends in all different places of my life. So I don't do the cliquish stuff. I don't have that kind of, even if I never have ever. Let me say it like this. When it was my young days and I used to go hang out with my friend, I used to hang with my cousin first of all, okay? And we were like real close friends. And we used to be together. And it used to be maybe me and just my cousin, and maybe a third party will come along with us. But most of the time when we hung out, it was just only us two. When we used to hit those little like hole in the wall clubs, when we had no money, we go to those little places we could get in for free and just buy the drinks and enjoy the music and the dance floor and social, more like a social club. You know what I'm saying? But but today is different. We didn't have social media to influence our, certain things. We didn't have that in front of us all the time. We went out there and had fun and came home together. You know, it was always a rule. You leave together, you come home together. I never would say, "Oh, girl, you go ahead. I'm gonna hang out with this dude for a minute." No, that ain't. We ain't do that. We didn't do that. It was like, "Oh no, I don't know him. We ain't going." I'm not going home with him until I get his number. He call me, I call him, whatever, whichever way it goes. We get to meet up and date and go out. And then it was safer. It was a lot. It was danger out there then. I mean, it was racism and KKKs and all these people were out there then. But it's social media is a demon. It's a devil. It draws people energy. It draws that type of energy. It draws people to that kind of way of thinking. And you gotta understand, there's a whole lot of stuff these young people are into today that you be surprised. You be surprised. So I'm saying with this Nolan thing, something like, okay, he was with the all white friends, but where did the picture come from? Where did the picture come from that he was on the boat with all these three white? If he didn't take no photos and his mother never got no photos, I'm like, well, they said somebody sent her the photo. I said, well, why would they do that if they wasn't already something going on before that? Why would he take a photo, somebody take a photo and send it to his parents that his mother or whoever that he, why would, something just, like I'm saying, with those young boys, and I'm not saying this like I'm trying to make it feel like these white boys are innocent. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that before we jump to conclusions, that it was foul play. It was done by his so-called the three white boys that were seen in the photo with him. But somebody shot a picture to his people. What would the picture that was circulating around of him on that boat? I'm trying to figure out who sent the picture. And then his mother saying that there was no photos or nothing like that on his phone. And then this so-called black friend out here saying something like, "Oh well, you know, he was just like it was other black friends there too." And remember, he's an athlete. He probably already had something going on with some beef. Some people said he left and went to go look for a girl. He was trying to kick it with some girl or whatever like that he was after. It's just so many stories out there. That's why I said let the people who's involved in the investigation do their job and let this be handled the way it should be handled in the courthouse and not here on social media. Because people are giving a lot of misleading information and it can get very messy. It's already bad as messy because he got Ben Clump and Al Sharpton on jumped on the bandwagon. So that's going to be a mess too. Because he don't know when to shut up. Both of them. Everything is racism. We know racism exists in the world. It's going to be here. People going to raise their kids to be racist. Okay, we know that. Okay, we don't need to keep drilling in our head, but we don't want to look at everything in skin color. It costs nothing for some compassion at this time and some prayers to be lifted and offered up. And if you want to help to send money, send money. If you want to help for any kind of legal expenses or any kind of other things, then do that. But you don't have to get on social media every single day talking about this incident because it gets more and more messier. Because people start putting out misleading information. It happened with Shanquilla. It started to happen. It happened. I don't even know. They probably still doing something with Ashley. We don't know because I'm glad people are quiet about it. That doesn't mean God ain't in the blessing business. God ain't working. But it's when people are making more and more noise, he putting more and more pile and more stuff into it. It matters that the current Trump administration has only accepted white refugees. Racism like that should be talked about. You know what? They took in more white refugees. Well, I'm glad you paying attention. That's all I can say. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that you just stay calm and keep your mind lifted on Jesus, and you just give it to God. Cause white people gonna do what white people do. Not saying that you don't see it, and I'm not saying that it's not wrong to call it out in a way. If you see it, you see it. Okay, you see it for what it is. You see it. Okay, there's no reason for you to try to, oh, you white. They've accepted maybe two non-white refugees. Refugees from where? Refugees from where? Where they bringing refugees from? You know why we got a big problem? I think President Trump administration, and you don't have to, say I'm wrong, but a lot of times when you bring certain groups of people from certain culture and places from the world, um, they bring certain elements with them, and I think for order for people to really connect with people here in the United States of America, and this is just what I'm saying, if you're going to be somebody that's going to come here as an immigrant and you want to, come into this melting pot, or you want to start assimilating with American culture, whatever, you got to already have something in common with the American people that you bring in. Like, let's go back to when the Italians, right? When the Italians and the Irish and they all came here. Not saying they liked each other, because they didn't. It was some shit went down. That's when everybody built their own little families and their own little gangsters and their own little communities and all that other stuff, just to keep themselves separate. They had Little Italy. You went up to the Bronx, you saw a lot of Irish people, and most Irish people had all the pubs and things of that nature. And most Irish people the Europeans, those who's coming from European countries and places to the United States, but the things that they all had in common was they all practiced the same faith. Always remember that. So when they came to the United States, they had that to order for them to, to assimilate because of their religious beliefs. And that's what brought them connected. But other than that, they were still separate, but they were still connected. We didn't have the problems we have today with our immigrants that come from third world countries. Because most people that come from third world countries are not in the faith that we are in over here in the United States of America. And we see that now. We see that now. And this nation was built on, I didn't say everybody here was a Christian, but we were built on Christian faith. That's why most people came from European countries to immigrate here to the United States, because of their freedom of religion. And it was to be able to be free in Christ, and it was able to practice the religion of Christianity. People weren't getting killed because they were practicing Islam. They wasn't getting killed because they was Hindu. They wasn't getting killed because of Buddha. Through the Bible, people were always killing the Jews, all through the Bible. Okay? That lineage, that ethnic group, that those people that were in the faith and all that other stuff of Christian faith, they were mostly killing people that were worshiping the God of the Bible. They was not killing. And when people came here from places of the world like Italy, Sicily, and maybe even Germany, in places of the Western world, that the faith has always been about Christianity. But when people come here from a whole different third world and they got a whole different type of religion, it's going to bring war. And it's gonna get the nation, the people in the nation, it's gonna bring problems. So that's probably why he doesn't. And he said it himself. He don't want Muslims in this country. Not while he's in leader. He just don't want. He had an experience with them because I had an experience with them, and I'm sure have a whole lot of other Americans had an experience on. We can't forget what happened on 9/11 when they came and they hit 9/11 on civilian soil. You hit where the people were working on high buildings. You ain't taking no consideration in those innocent lives. If you're going to go to battle, y'all have a certain battleground. You don't hit civilians. It's a certain rule. Okay? So I don't blame him for feeling the way he feels about having people from third world nations, mostly people that look dark, because that's the religion mostly over there is Muslim. Okay? And he's doing whatever he can to keep lives and citizens, people here safe. Not that he's being a racist, but he's also got to protect his nation of Christians. You seen what they doing over there in Nigeria and all these other places in the world? So we can't always see it as race. Religion has a very, very strong part in it. You see how we having problems with those Somalians? They don't assimilate with this culture, but they supposed to be. Racism is a crime. It depends. It can be it's a sin. It's a sin. Yes, it is. You can't go around hating people because of the color of their skin. No, you cannot. You cannot do that. You cannot do that. Because if it was only supposed to be one race here, God would have made it that way, but he didn't. The most important thing God wants us to do so we can live in harmony and peace with each other is to connect with him in the body of Christ. Not your skin color, but what's in your heart with Christ, with humanity. So racism is a sin. Discriminating people because of the color of their skin is wrong. In the sight of God, God hates racism. He sends people to work together and to get together in the body of Christ. We come together as one in the body of Christ. So racism is a sin. Because if he only wanted white people in the world, it would have only been white people in the world. But he did. He made people of all different colors of the rainbow. So get out of here talking about racism ain't no sin. God does not like racism. Don't lie on God. Don't lie on God. That's got to get out of my chat. I don't want that here. It's good against evil. Yes, God did not say. He says it's all about him. You can't be unevenly yoked. You can't be out here saying you in love with somebody. It doesn't matter because religion they is. Yes, it does matter. And a lot of times when you getting married, that's the same thing that happened to Solomon. God made it very clear, okay, for Solomon not to marry all those women with all those different pagan gods. You know, racism is a sin, but everybody's supposed to stick with their own. As far as when you get married and start having children and everything else like that. But when it comes to us living together in the world, we all got to get along and we all have to be good to one another. But a lot of people want to see the grass greener on the other side and jump into another man, and that brings out some things in the heart. You understand what I'm saying? Like, here you are, a black man running after some white man's woman, and you need to stick with your own. And that has always been a problem with our people, and we just don't want to acknowledge that. Back in the days when them slaves knew how to, they could read, but they couldn't read in the language of women wasn't allowed to learn either. I don't think women were allowed to learn either. Women wasn't allowed to be educated. Even during Jesus' time, women was not allowed to be educated. You saw in the book when in the book of Timothy when Paul says women should learn in silence. Because I hear people saying that right now. Just like, this friend of mine, like I was telling you, she's a white girl and she's dating a Mexican guy and everything. But that's cool with her because they share the same faith. Most Mexicans, they're Catholic. I barely find Mexican Pentecostal. I will find more Puerto Ricans more Pentecostal than I find Mexicans. you know, but Pentecostal Iglesia, but but they have something in common. The religion. The religion is always got to be the same faith to connect in the body of Christ. If y'all ain't coming from that, it ain't gonna work. They said a house divided cannot build. And a lot of times people get with people and they don't practice the same religions. And then the kids grow up confused and crazy. It's bad enough they got a messed up situation going on as it is, knowing how to identify with who they are in the world, if they black, if they white, or they family's ethnicity or culture or values or whatever. But religion is a very important part. And I don't like I'm going back to President Trump. I don't think President Trump is doing this to be a racist. I think he's doing it to protect Christianity. Because most people that come from these third world countries are not Christians. They're Muslims or other. You know, I don't think he's doing it to stop them. Even in South Africa, they trying to get them Nigerians. They don't want Nigerians in it because South Africans, they don't do that Muslim stuff either. South Africans, they got their own clans, and most South Africans are Christians. They don't be doing all that Muslim stuff and all of that. They probably do some of their voodoo or whatever, some other religion along with their Christian faith because it comes with their clan, their culture, whatever. Not all Nigerians. Okay? I've been with a Nigerian. Most Nigerians are not Catholic. I mean, yeah, they more what you call it, not Catholic, but is it Protestant? I think they more Protestant. I'm not sure, but anyway, I'm not gonna get in. But I'm saying as far as whether they Catholic, Jew, whatever, they all read the God of the Bible. That's it. That's the most important thing. The foundation is that book. If it ain't coming from the book and it ain't coming from the Bible, and y'all not reading the same Bible, I don't even mess with Jehovah Witnesses, okay? Because I don't consider them Christians. I consider them to be cults, okay? It's a totally different. It's different, but they still kind of read the Bible. You know what I'm saying? You can still win them to Christ because they are, a little in some kind of. They take some things out of the Bible because they want to call him Jehovah. He got many names. You want to call him Jehovah, you know, and he has all different types of names that people call him in their language, but it's still Christ. It's still Christ. you know and that's why I wanted to just say that everybody keep attacking President Trump, calling him a racist. I don't think he's a racist. I just think he's just have a certain way with his faith, and he just do what he has to do as a president to protect the Christian population here, that no harm won't come to the Christian people. He already put that in law from day one when he got in office. So I don't think it's really anything to do with people's skin color. If he brought two refugees, maybe out of those two they were Christians or other, but they wasn't Muslim. And I think he's trying to avoid that. And he already said, I don't want them in this country. It brings too much problems. And we got to also think about what happened on 9/11. And now you see what's going on with Iran threatening his life and talking about death to President Trump, and they doing their little chants and everything. I don't sleep on those people because those people, when they want to kill, they kill. Because that's all they do. If you don't want to bow to take, you know, what they trying to force on you, if you ain't trying to get some Sharia, We're not trying to be with Sharia law and they kind of way of law and trying to, put women in all that black stuff and walk around all covered up like that and everything. Nobody wants to be under no bondage. That's bondage. You want to be free in Christ, but you also need to cover up too. When you in Jesus Christ, you can't be walking out here with your flesh all hanging out and you calling yourself a Christian, because then you send in a certain kind of message. God teaches us that we should be covering up. Women should cover up and everything else like that. Is you could look modest, look nice and modest and everything. So that's why I said there should be a certain dress code in church. They used to, but now they don't. They just let people just do what they want, and now God is trying to get your attention to get your house in order. I live around those people. They seem like cool people. The women just suck at driving, and it's kind of annoying because all the stores on Harlem have squiggly letters. I don't know what's going on in this conversation here. Nigeria's a Catholic turncoat, Trumper trash. Can you spell hypocrite bigotry? You need to worry about your own shit, woman. Who you talking to, me? That whole shit over there is called Little Palestine. Judgy much? I don't know. Somebody's having a conversation. I don't know if you talking to me or you talking to somebody in the chat, because I have no clue what you talking about. Alamo City, CeeLo. All right. Like I said, and everything to everybody, like I'm saying, it's a whole lot of stuff going on right now. I'm just looking at the change of how things are happening here in the United States. I see people coming over here that's just changing the culture here, you know? Oh, you was telling me about the Arabs? What about them? Palestine? Where at? Where you was talking about? Loose squares? I don't get it. What are you talking about? You talking about in Harlem now? Oh, Bridgeview, Illinois. Oh, I don't know nothing about that place. I know nothing about Bridgeview. I don't even know what's going on in New York right now. To be honest with you, I get things. I know Little Italy is mad because they don't change. They try to change Little Italy to something. They didn't put Little Italy on the map, and now those Italians they pissed off. They mad as hell, and that's what I don't understand about people. Like, um, I notice when certain groups of people start moving and certain people start moving out, and white people do that, they start moving out their communities, and they shouldn't. Y'all need, mm, I don't think we should be letting them into the United States of America. I just don't think we should. I don't think they should be able to come here and live here and make a life here for themselves. I just don't think so. I think it's a problem with that. I have a problem with that. Black the I don't know about Democrats. I don't know. I don't know. Democrats are just, these are different groups of Democrats. These ain't the same Democrats I grew up with. I don't know how the hell these people even got into our government. I just don't know. It's just like it was a whole lot of things that was done to eliminate the black population, even during Hitler time. So you see that didn't happen, right? We still keep coming. You can't beat God's doing. I don't know nothing about all that abortion stuff, what's going on with people in the Democrats and everything else like that. But I don't think everybody in the Democrat Party agrees with abortion and some of the stuff that's going on over there. Is over 61 million what? No, because we don't marry that many. Because in their culture, see, that's the whole thing. That's why I say their culture don't mix with ours, because they believe in having more than one wife. So they be having babies with all different wives. They be having like three and four wives or two. No, we don't populate as fast as Arabs because they have that culture, their religion, and Africans too. That's another thing. The culture with the African culture and them Arab cultures and places over there in the third world, they be having like more than one wife. They be having three and four wives. See, in America, they don't do it that way. In America, they divorce and they remarry. But in their culture, they be having three and four and five and six and seven and eight and nine and seven. It depends on how rich the man is and how many wives he gonna have. Okay, that's the way they practice. That's their culture. That's what they practice. They practice that type. Yes, they wives be arranged to them. Like, I want to marry her little 8-year-old daughter and shit. That's why we don't want them over here, because the culture and the religion and all that other stuff, it don't connect with Christ. It don't. And this wasn't supposed to be in our nation. And God is like, look, he watching over this nation. He's telling President Trump what to do. And President Trump is following the orders that are given to him through God. Believe it or not, President Trump have a morning prayer, a afternoon prayer, a night prayer. That man stayed prayed up. You hear me? Because he know he's a target. He know people are after him. So he stayed talking to God. Or he have people around him to keep him. They don't. They don't fit in with our values. They try to force their way in and they try to take over. That's the way they do things. And I don't trust those people. And after 9/11, I don't trust them. They mindset, the way they think and everything, and their culture, what they come with and all that other stuff. I just don't trust them. They're not a peaceful religion. They not. They creep their way on in and they just keep creeping on in and creeping on in until they can just like really conquer this world. And I don't understand who did business with Iran, who even did business with these Muslim nations. They should have been shut down indefinitely. Republicans are not going to do that. Republicans are supposed to be more Christian. They follow more Christian values, and they believe that every man can take care of himself, but everybody can help one another out. But it's just their Christian values. They don't believe in the stuff. Democrats is all about money and power, okay, and control. That's why they had to go to war with the Civil War to free the slaves, because it was Ulysses Grant. That's why I said learn about your dead presidents. Learn about what these men were fighting for. They wasn't always fighting for tariffs and money and business. They wasn't always fighting for that. It was always a religious warfare. It was all dealing with people coming, the things that creeped into the United States, like slavery. It was the people that were more Republican, and it was very few of them that were. They were. They were the Union and the Confederate. Okay? And they went from one party, I think the Whig Party or something like that, to it was another type of party with the Whig Party, and they didn't become Republican until like in the 1860 something. But the Republican Party didn't come until like 1860 something. But the black people have always been Republican. The free black men and women, like the Dred Scotts and all of that other stuff. Black people were politically actually structured like that with civil rights and everything to try to get the same, like join the Constitution. Because before, remember, they had to do the 13th, the 14th Amendment and include us as citizens because we weren't included as citizens. Yeah, those Democrats, they wicked. They bring these foreign third world countries in here to stay in power. That's what they do. That's why they wanted the slaves to stay in slavery because they wanted power. But those slaves was kicking their ass. They wasn't, what you call this was like, look, you better let them go. They ain't going to tell you that in the history books, but I'm sure them slaves was doing a number on their ass. And they were getting caught and lynched and killed and everything else. Yeah, them slaves, they were fighting. They were fighting. They knew how to use a goddamn black man. Come on, they was working as blacksmiths. You think they didn't have weapons? You didn't think they had weapons and know how to fuck them people up? And then when they caught them, they what they would do. That's how they were killing them because when they got was able to catch them, they killed them just like they did the Indians. They did probably have some of them had guns. Some of them knew how to make some guns and know how to shoot some of them. Let me tell you something. Them slaves were fighting. They just ain't gonna tell you that in the history books, but they were fighting. And they took the front line in the fight in the Civil War. They fought for their masters. The masters they had, some of them had were masters they were coon boy Yahweh. You know what I'm saying? They were fighting. Them slaves was like, yo, you talking to me like that? You gonna hit me with that shit again? I'll get your ass tonight, motherfucker. You go to sleep tonight, motherfucker. Yeah, them slaves were fighting. You mean to tell me you beat your motherfucking slave ass, and then on top of that, you want him to ride you somewhere to go to another town? You don't think he would got your ass on that road, stop you right there, and did a number on you? He knew a way where he could get you somewhere where them motherfuckers wouldn't, and they found your dead body somewhere. He come back and say, "Oh, they attacked Massa." You know what I'm saying? Them slaves was no joke. You seen the Django, right? They only caught them when they were able to, when they caught them. But them slaves were fighting. I believe the Democrat Party is behind all this shit. Everything around these young people and all these things are happening in those states. I think the Democrats are doing that shit to get black people to get riled up and get out there to fight and march and do things to get themselves harmed. I truly believe that's their way of doing it because they so mad that Trump is in power that they do anything to stir things up to make it look like he's the racist. And I truly believe the Democrats are the ones who are doing it. Those lynchings and all these killings and stuff, those are Democrats. Those are the Democrats. That's not the Republicans. And they want to make it look like the Republicans. Now, maybe some Republicans now that want to be infiltrating on the rhinos or whatever they want to be. But it's mostly those damn Democrats. They doing that shit. Because black people didn't want to freaking... Remember, they lost the black vote. Mm-hmm. They lost the black vote. And they trying to make everything look bad for Trump. Remember, Trump was a Democrat before he changed over to Republican, but he wasn't a Democrat like in, you know, he was a registered Democrat like any other Democrat. But when he went to run for presidency and everything, he switched parties because he wanted to run against Obama. Okay, he wanted to pull that fake ass Obama. I love Michelle, okay? And those two girls. The Democrats are the ones. It's in their blood, it's in their genes, it's in their lineage. That's who they are. And the Republicans are fighting as hard as they can to keep their ass out of power. That's why they trying to get the SAVE Act. And you see how they keep trying to block it, you know, because they hold most of the House. The Democrats. Hmm. They want you to get out there on the street and start fighting and looting and doing all kind of things to cause chaos in this United States of America. They want to turn this place third world. That's why they all got all them foreigners sitting there and in the Democrat Party and everything. You don't see all them damn foreigners in the Republican Party. You don't. The only foreigner you see is Donald. What's his name? Donald, whatever his name is. The Jamaican is married to the white one. Yep, that's what the Democrats are doing. I'm telling you, everybody that you see on these chats that be talking all that racist, hateful shit, that's them goddamn Democrats. It's the Democrats. That's why when I come across white people and they say, "Oh, ew, fuck this Trump dude," and I get away from them real quick. I be like, "Oh, I like Trump." You know what I'm saying? When they be coming for me, I be like, "Yo, look, I like," and I'm in a Democrat state. Well, I'm in a purple state. Put it that way. It could go. It's red and blue over here. Yeah, I don't see. To be honest with you, I don't have that problem. And let me tell you something. I'm in a Democrat state. I'm in the state where the slaves, the first state where the slaves were brought to be the first state to have slaves. Okay, and I'm in the last state, the state that was the last state to free the slaves, Delaware. And whose state is this? Biden. And Biden was a racist son of a bitch. Biden was a racist son of a bitch back in his days. Oh yeah, Biden. He tried to change his heart. He still couldn't change it. And that what's his name over there? He's a racist son of a bitch too. That one Gruesome Newsom. See, you got to understand. You could tell he's a racist in front of a whole black people. He gonna talk about he can't read. That was a like, why are you telling us that? To pander your votes? Like you stupid enough to vote for a person that can't read? Because that's what we like. Okay. Okay, you gonna rule over this nation and you can't read. And we gonna put you in power. Okay. You think we that stupid. You know. Everything about him looks racist. Newsom, he's a racist. He's more racist than Trump. I don't think he ever hung out with any black people. At least Trump hung out with black people. Okay. Gruesome Newsom, he's a racist. He's a Klan member. Okay. I see it. I've been around for a long time. I'm 60 years old, boo. Don't let this young face fool you. I'm 60. He's a racist. He's a Klan member. He's a Klan member. You could tell. And I wouldn't vote for him for presidency. I know I wouldn't cast a vote on him. I wouldn't put him in power. I don't think I would vote for any of them Democrats, to be honest with you. I don't think so. Because none of them seem to be really, yeah. Oh, yeah. States like, I'm going to tell you the states right now, down in the deep south, those Democrat states, the Republican states. Now the Republicans are racist to a certain extent, but you still see they not as racist as the Democrats are, because bringing back a Carmelo, it could have went worse for Carmelo, to be honest with you, because they gave Carmelo a second chance. They given him another trial, and they made it very clear that and somehow or the other God moved their heart. And even when Carmelo was arrested and he had like $1 million bond, they were able to lower it to 250,000 for him, and he was able to go home and be able to build his case and do what he needed to do. As far as, I don't know if he got adequate counseling from his attorneys or anything of that nature, but still in all, it worked out better for Carmelo because he's still here, and those other boys are dead. That speaks volumes. The Republicans, they see something good about Carmelo. Them Democrats will want him to fry. So we don't know what's going on behind the Carmelo thing. I think the Democrats try to set it up because, like I said, you get these Republicans, they are rhinos. They work with the Democrats. Because you ain't going to tell me in no kind of way that those boys were raised in Christian values, the way, not the Christian values they supposed to have. You know what I'm saying? It's not because of the way their father was. You can't tell me that man wasn't a KKK member. Him, his brother-in-law, and all of them. And they try to switch parties and become Democrats. I mean, Republicans, because Trump is, you know, president now. So that gives them a green light that they can go around and, be racist and make it look bad for Trump. Same thing with that other guy that goes around being a provocateur. What's his name again? The troll. He goes from state to state doing racist things, saying racist things, white supremacist. Um, I don't know how he's a white supremacist and he's Jewish. That's kind of weird, right? Don't you think so? But I find out that some Jews are prejudiced and very racist. For people that was the ones who feel like they were always targeted for whatever reasons, but then they turn around and they target other people. Make it make sense. If you know anything about Jewish, those ain't the real Jews. Just like there's some Christians that ain't the real Christians either. They ain't real Christians. And he says some are going to come and say they me, but they not me. And that's what Jesus said. He's a racist too. Al Sharpton's a racist too. He gets the racist stuff heated up. He brings all the race hatred out of black folks and do all of that riled up stuff. I ain't got time for it. He need to sit his ass down somewhere. Okay, it's getting old, Al Sharpton. It's getting old. We tired of it. We went through this shit or some things, and you still haven't learned yet. You're not fighting for us. You're making it harder for us. You're making it bad for us because you always got your big mouth opened out there, saying things you shouldn't be saying, and you a racist too. Yeah, he made millions off of black, people's pain and suffering and, all of that stuff. I'm tired of it. It's time to get somebody else out there that can have a, more better way of seeing things unbiased. We need somebody else that could speak with being unbiased, that don't lead their people into a burning bush. You know, just your whole way, your whole demeanor, the way you come out there. You ain't married no more. You divorced from your wife and everything, and you've been out here with all kind of celebrity women and doing all kind of stuff like that, leading and saying you a man of you a reverend, putting a name like that in front. What a reverend is. A person is someone you look to for respect, a man of respect, of honor. But you out there doing things that the racists are doing. There's a certain kind of way you got to carry yourself when you carry in a battle of civil rights. You can't go toe to toe and eye to eye for an eye and then tooth for tooth. You got to help them, turn them to see the other way around. You can't be doing it the way they doing it. That's not the teachings of Dr. King was trying to show us and teach us in the gospel. That's why he took the beatings. That's why he took all the hitings. He could have fought back, but he said, "No, we ain't gonna do that. We just came in peace. Let it be on them." Expose them to themselves. But Mal Sharpton doesn't do that. He goes toe to toe with them and have black people out there getting harmed. March them right into the doggone burning bush. I don't like that. Leave this case alone. You and I don't need, well, the family are the ones who want them, so they don't. I guess they don't want justice for their son. I'm sorry. That's why I said I'm not getting all caught up in it. I ain't getting emotionally attached to that. When you got Big Mouth Al Sharpton involved now, and you got Ben Crump ain't that bad, but Al Sharpton is bad. And okay, he was good for some time, used for some purpose at one time, but now it's like all you doing is bringing more racial tension into people and get people out there to get harmed, and you're gonna march these people right into a burning bush. Just say, we're going to take care of this. We're going to go to church with you. We're going to like this. This is what you need to do. Take that family to church and sit down and pray with them and pray for them. Get the community to come out and support them and everything else like that. That's what a man of God would do. But we ain't taking it to the street because we don't want to see nobody get hurt. We don't want to amp it up. Okay? That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to pull them to Christ. And that's what I don't like. They pull these people, these poor people out in the street, and they cause them to get more harm. More harm. God knows what this family is going through. He know they in pain. He know they hurt and they looking for answers. They looking for justice, but it's going to take some time. But you got to get the noise out their ears. You got to put them in a place where they can speak to Jesus and Jesus could talk to them and they can heal. And they could be strengthened and they could be comforted, not taking them to the street in front of all these media outlets and everybody on social media putting their 2 cents in it and saying this and saying that and blah 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 blah. No, they need to be around somebody that is spiritually connected to God to heal them, walk them through the scriptures, help pray with that family, get them to, strengthen them and everything else like that. You don't need no more noise. All that stuff is going to bring is break them down and make them more stressed out. Yeah, bringing more division and more strife and getting people all, parent crazy and saying crazy stuff out of their head. That's why I said I don't want none of them to be coming for. Well, I'm glad I did it the way. Well, anyway, I ain't have no white people that killed no family member of mine. It was a black man. It was a black young man that killed my nephew. Okay, so I can't get with all of that stuff. I want to see things, and I gotta use good judgment. I have to use godly lenses, and I got to think on a godly level. I can't think like the world thinks. I'm not going to take those people in the street and keep having them people on media outlets and everything. I'm going to say, no, whatever you need to ask them, you can ask me and I'll talk to you. But they right now need to get their healing done. They need to get through this process. They need prayer. They need comfort. They need quietness. You got them out in the public talking and crying and everything. Same thing they did with Shanquilla Robinson family. They dropped the ball on her. If they just kept it quiet, but the more noise you made, the harder you made it for them to get justice. Because God said, seek him. Humble yourself and seek him. If my people are called by my name, will humble themselves. Always remember 2 Chronicles 7:14. All that noise is going to do is bring more noise, more division, more chaos, more conflict, more this, more that. All you got to do is seek God's face. Turn from your wicked ways. God can't work through no mess. He can't. You got to get quiet. You got to get some peace that will pass with all understanding. Like Jesus said, take my yoke, which is light. I did write some scriptures here for y'all on there. I always put a scripture there. I always do. Just think when something like this. Hi, sweetie. Hi, Cisco's Country Life. How are you? Yeah, they make too much damn noise. And they don't do nothing but bring more harm to their people. That's why I don't do the identity politics anymore. I used to, but not anymore. I used to be real militant. But I calmed down. God has humbled me. I used to be what? They used to call me Sister Soldier. But then I said, you know what? This is not the way. Being a Christian and having that type of feelings towards people is not right. I can't put a blanket over people like that. You got to see people as individuals. They got to be held for their own actions as an individual, not as a whole, not as the whole group of people, but as an individual. And what happened at that boat, it was more friends there. It was 4th of July. It was some girl mentioned there. Maybe he went next to a girl. Maybe it was already something already going on before they got to Horns Island. That other people was going to be there and it was going to go down. I had a cousin a long time ago, a very long, a distant. I wouldn't say they were close family, but it was actually my mother's cousin. Okay, and he had went to a party he was invited to go to, and it was a some kind of party that he went to. Was he invited? How did the story go? Happened so long ago. I was a kid when it happened, but I'm just trying to put it together. Wait, he went to a girlfriend. She was giving a party at her house, but the girl was seeing another man. But the party she was giving was a coming, back in the days, a party. He was coming out of jail, and she was throwing this party. But my cousin was also seeing the woman. So when she was throwing the party, he went to the party, and her man came out of jail, and they got into it. And my cousin was stabbed to death over that incident. He was stabbed to death. Now, listen, now my cousin, my mother's cousin, whatever, his he had a wife. Okay, he had a wife and a family. He had how many kids with his wife? I think he had 3 children with his wife. But he was over there hanging out with this mistress of his, and the mistress of his had a boyfriend, but her boyfriend was locked up when he started seeing her. So he came home out of jail. She was throwing him a homecoming party or whatever. You know how they do back in the days. Black folks, they throw their their family member come out of jail. They get this party thing going. We got there. Dude showed up. They got into it, and he was stabbed and killed at this party over a woman. And that's what I'm trying to say. You never know what was going on, what was escalating before it got to Horn Island. Him with these other dudes probably was, young people do that. Yo, man, I saw her with such and such, and this girl, her other boyfriend is over there, and you don't know what other man might have been interested in her. And they probably like alert him or got his attention or whatever, and he wanted to go check her out or go say something to the dude. We don't know what could have happened. That's why I'm saying he was with his 3 white boys, but he probably had other friends there that was there too. There was the black guys that came out and say, yeah, they were there and they saw him there, whatever, whatever. They were good friends. His so-called best friend, he was black, so he had friends from all different backgrounds, and we saw him in a video dancing with some girl in the video and stuff like that. And it just happened the way it could have happened like that. Another guy came through and they was already beefing before about this girl, and he finally caught up with him at Horns Island. And, you know, things just went down the way it did. I'm just saying, I'm not saying, but that's why I'm telling people, don't always look. You got to see things beyond the eye, okay? Of what could have happened. Because it's kind of like weird to me that why would they take him to Horns Island on the 4th of July and make it look so obvious? That's what the whole thing is. Why would it be so obvious that these three boys, white boys, would be in a boat with a black boy and he ends up dead? And they saying that he left them and he went with after some other girl. They said he left the crowd and they not talking. Everybody said, well, they trying to make it automatically suspicious that these white boys did something. And something is telling me they probably didn't. And that's why I didn't want to get too caught up and emotional with this, because some things we know things has happened, and then now we seeing all these copycat things going on. You know what I'm saying? But this was happening even before that happened, because it was other young black man who was killed and shot down. Whatever, he had some kind of mental episode or whatever, and the police officers, that's happened in some other town in I think in Tennessee, somewhere like that. And we know that shit goes down like that. But then you got to think about all these other places. But if you notice the pattern of the black men that are dying, mostly of them are being with white friends for some reason. Just like Talvin Osborne or whatever his name was, that was on social media disrespecting the black women and calling us all kind of dogs, and saying that he'd rather be with a dog than be with the black woman. And Hannah, his white girlfriend, he was propping her up. He was saying all kind of horrible things about black women. But then all of a sudden him and Hannah got into some riff-raff that night or whatever, and Hannah ends up pulling out a gun and shooting and killing him right in the chest, and saying that she was cleaning her gun and it went off and it shot him. And Hannah ain't even do no time for it, because guess what? Hannah's family, this was in Texas, and Hannah's father was somebody, the chief of police or something. And but you saw him in a lot of photos. You go on his Facebook page, you saw him in a whole lot of photos with nothing but white boys around, surrounded by nothing but white boys. So I said I can't get out here and just put myself on, get invested in all of this stuff. I can't get myself invested in black people being harmed by white people, and these black men doesn't even thinking about the black community. At one point, they just turned away from the black community, and they just wanted to just surround themselves with nothing but around the proximity of white people. So I can't fully invest myself in stuff like this. I just really can't invest myself in stuff like this. I have to know when all the facts come out, because those boys are not talking, and they, like I said, they shut down their social media page, so they won't put nothing out there that can put them in more hot water than they probably already is. But we can't always automatically assume that it was them, because it was on 4th of July and a whole lot of other kids were out there. And yes, we go over some things too, that is a racist state. And Mississippi is known as Mississippi Burning. We know the story of Mississippi, KKK land, KKK town. That stuff is still out there in the South, deep in the South and everything. That's why the people that grew up there, that know the place, not people that just moved into the state. I'm talking about people that have grassroots there. They know the state. They know how to get around all that racism and who's who in the town, because they've been there for a long time. They raised their families there. They went to school there. Some of the white racist kids they went to school with, and they cool. They have that kind of understanding. But when people from another place come into a new state and they move in and they bring their children with them, and remember, the parents are not even married. They're not married. But they both are active in his life, but one live in a separate household than the other. They got two different names, or maybe they do live together. They just never got married, and that's not good. You know what I'm saying? Because God speaks very strongly about marriage. Okay, the institution of marriage. He speaks very strongly why a child parents should be together, and when they raising their children and everything. Like they said, he says something in the Bible about how you will know how he builds his house. You know what I'm saying? Like these men that be having like 1,001 girlfriends in different houses with different babies with different all types of different women, and it's just crazy. Even though in the Bible they did that, but they were all together as one family, and they took care. They all lived in the community together as one. It's something that was part of the culture in those times. But I'm just saying that's not our culture. you know but in American culture, families are supposed to be strong. They are supposed to be a husband and a wife both in the household with the child, and they both supposed to be building together in that child's life and setting an example for that child. But a house divided is not going to build. Y'all not married. Y'all both living in separate households. Your child lives, you live one, the son should be living with the father, but instead he probably live with the mother. That's not good. I remember my aunt and her husband, they separated, and they separation, and then because she took the girls, and my cousin had to go live with his father. But the father still stayed active in the girls' lives too. But they were more better off with like they do that in the court. Like they sometimes let the boy child go stay with the father. But they were separated, and God hates divorce. God does. He hates divorce. But it happens in society, and some people just before it used to be it used to be very hard to get a divorce. In the olden days, the Catholic Church, oh no. It had to be a real good reason. And even after your husband died in some of the Catholic churches, the religion, the faith, and everything, they don't allow you to remarry. That's how strict it was. You had to just remain a widow. They didn't believe in remarrying. When your husband passed away in the Catholic Church, you had to remain a widow, and at least until your children were grown up and out on their own. That's how it used to be in the Catholic. It used to be very strict. They don't put them, they need to get back strict again. They need to get strict in all these churches again. For real, for real. Because y'all been letting people being too compromising with the word. And this is what's causing these young people out here to be losing their life so soon. And this is what's causing these young people out here to be wilding out the way they wilding out. Y'all got to put some restriction on these kids. When y'all bringing people up in the Lord, you got to put some restrictions. You got to be like, nah, nah, nah. You got to start beating them over the head with the Bible again. You got to put the fear of the Lord in them. Just so you could keep them here, to anchor them here. you know, because these kids are just dying like I don't know what. They're young. And this ain't only just happening to black kids. There's white kids out there. You just don't hear too much about it. You just don't get it much. You ain't gonna get as much footage of it as you hear how black kids are dying. You know what I'm saying? But there's some white boys out there killing other white boys. And kids are dying by the hands of other kids. White kids killing other white kids. It's happening. Because people lost control over their children. They lost control over their household. First of all, they stopped teaching God in school and in the home. It starts at home. If you're not teaching it at home, and if you're not practicing it at home, you're not taking your kids on Sunday to church, and you're not getting them Sunday school, and you're not getting them, if you're not giving them no foundation in Christ whatsoever, they will wither away. It used to be a song we used to sing in old spiritual. It said, if your soul's not anchoring Jesus, you will surely drift away, drift away, drift away. It used to be an old spiritual. Those songs were songs of teaching us a story, the gospel. How you got to be anchored in Jesus. So you could put the fear of God in your children, not saying beating them up with things and this, that, and the other. It's just giving them certain kind of instructions in life to follow. You go out, call me, you got your phone, you got your house key. Don't do this with that person. You teach your kids certain basic things when they, ages and stages when they start hanging out. Like Before it was okay to have little sleepover parties with your little friends. We used to see that stuff growing up. We used to have a little sleepover birthday parties, and little girls would sleep over at each other's house and do cute little things like paint their fingernails. Everybody do their nails. Everybody put on a little like glamour up and talk about boys and talk about this and talk about that. Teenage girls would do that. Sleep over at their friend's house and make sure that, things was safe. There was always somebody there to watch the kids. They didn't have no sleepover party, and it wasn't no adult in the house. It was always an adult there to make sure whatever they was going to eat, they was going to have some pizza, or if it was going to be Chinese food, or if it was going to be just just any other kind of foods they're gonna have at the birthday sleepover party. Most of the sleepover parties was a birthday party and then a sleepover. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I'm gonna stay tonight. Yeah, we're gonna go to the party. We're gonna have it. These days, you can't even do that. You can't feel safe because some of the people are not mature enough to watch your children. They doing stuff in their house they shouldn't be doing around their own children. And then on top of that, you ain't gonna want your kids with everybody. Trust everybody around your kids, or trust your kids going to certain people's house because of all the stuff, the tragedy and all the crazy stuff going on. Like, people got crazy family members that come sleep over there, might touch your little girl or do something, whatever. So you now like, that ain't going on in my house. Oh, hell to the no. But before, you feel safe because we didn't grow up with the exposure these kids got today, the stuff they see today, and some of this immaturity of parenting today. The parents are very. Before, it used to be bad. You had the ghetto mothers that came to the school, cursed the teacher out, cursed out the principal, and snatched their child out of the school and did all kind of ratchet, crazy, dumb stuff. But then you got the parents that took concern in their children's education. If they child ain't come, I'm gonna call that school tomorrow and find out if you had any homework. You come and telling me you ain't had homework, but I'm gonna make sure I call that teacher tomorrow and find out. You know what I'm saying? That's how it was done when I was growing up. Couldn't come home and say you ain't had no homework. Hey, where's your homework? You going outside? Oh, did you do your homework? Uh, yeah. Well, the teacher didn't give us any homework this day. Oh, your teacher didn't give you no homework? Okay, well, I called tomorrow and find out the teacher gave you any homework. How about that? See, with me, I couldn't get away with it. My mother had already six or something other girls, kids before me. I mean, seven other kids before me. Okay, so she knew the game. She knew the tricks. These days, these parents, the kids just run over their parents. They feel the parents seem like they scared of their kids, but they living in their house though. I had this one friend I used to work with when we used to work in KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken. And I never forget when I used to work in KFC with her, how she used to be, when we got paid and everything, like our little $150 something paycheck we would get, because we was only getting paid like $3.50 an hour, and sometimes we worked on the if we worked on a full-time schedule or whatever, we probably come home with like $50. But I didn't work on a full-time schedule. My check would be like maybe 60 something dollars or whatever back then. But we didn't get paid bi-weekly. We got paid every week. So yeah, we got paid like every week with our little McDonald's or KFC money. But anyway, her father, used to drop off to work, and sometimes her mother would drop off to work and everything. And because I worked in the city, I worked in Manhattan, all the way downtown in the city. But she used to always like, oh, it's Friday. She said every time I get my paycheck, my father be like, okay, how much did you get paid? you know, and you better put some money away for your school clothes, or did you put some money in the bank? Because her family already taught her how to be more responsible with her money. They taught her to discipline her money, how to save and everything. And she used to come to work being mad about it. My daddy, and then he would take because back then it wasn't like you had no ATM card. You gonna go and get some money from the ATM. No, it wasn't like that. I mean, it came later on. I think the ATM started to be more popular like in the late 80s and 90s. But back in the time when I was coming up, ATMs wasn't everywhere like it is today. It wasn't no ATM in no stores, no nothing. You couldn't even do like credit cards and all that. Her dad used to make her put that money in the bank and make sure he looked at her bank book. She used to be coming in and talking about, my father made me, because he was already taught you how to save money, how to put money away, and how to be responsible with your money and not be spending your money all up on some boyfriend or doing something stupid with your money. So when back then, I didn't think it was right that her father did it because I was young like her. So we thinking, young people like, you should be controlling your own money. He shouldn't be having to tell you how to spend your, kids talking like that. But parents back then, they used to make you put that money in a bank. Soon as you got your paycheck, your father or your parent or your guardian will tell you, look, go there to that bank and open up that bank account for you. My mother opened me and my sister up a bank account when we was like in kindergarten. She opened up us a child savings banking account or whatever like that. But I let my mother keep that money. I graduated from school. She was going to give it to me, but I said, no, mom, you need it more than me. Sure, my mother took that money and spent it. It was pretty much, I could have used it, but my sister took her money and, well, she went off to college, so she had to, put hers towards her, you know, her school and everything else like that. But I'm just saying, in those days, that's what parents did. They opened up a children's account for their children. They opened up Christmas accounts for Christmas. Put a little $10, a little $2 here, a little $3 there in the bank, and by the time Christmas came, you had enough money to buy Christmas gifts. Just to buy, to have money for Christmas. They used to have the Christmas, account and all that. And then on top of that, her father used to tell her, you better put that money. Her father used to take her money. He said he would give her, let her have whatever she need for that week. But every time she got paid, her father used to make her almost deposit the whole paycheck in the bank. And he kept the bank book. Her mother and father kept the bank book. She couldn't even control her own money because they was making sure she wasn't going to spend that money out there doing something stupid. And I thought about that, and I said, "Wow, that was interesting." Well, me, I did what I want with my money, but anyway, but anyway, and everything. Back to what I was saying about parenting today is very hard because there's a lot that parents miss, and they don't teach their kids like responsibilities. They don't teach them about being careful about the kind of friends they hang out with, what not to do, the do's and the don't do's. Now with the cell phone things, kids don't go without no phone. You should be telling your kids to call you when you go up, when you get there. Call me when you get there. You know what I'm saying? And call me when you leave in there. So I'll be expecting you just in case you be stuck somewhere. I could come get you, whatever. Parents don't tell their kids rules like that no more. They just let them run rampant and wild. And they let them run with anybody. Don't get to know their friends. Don't get to know the parents. Or nothing like that. Like back in the days, you got to know what kind of parents your kids were. I mean, you got to know the parents of your kids' friends. You wasn't able to just run out there and be with anybody and they didn't know. They used to ask you as soon as that child came in that house, they asked, who's your mama? Who's your mama? They used to ask those questions. Back in the days, people would ask you, who's your mama? Where your mom? What kind of work your mother do? What kind of work your father do? People used to question. They used to ask questions like that. You think they being nosy, but no, they want to know who you are and who child you belong to. I mean, who you belong to and what your parents was like. They don't do that no more. I mind my business. My child, he looked like just looked like a nice person, but come on now. You need to be sitting there asking some questions. You just don't let your kids just run out there with anybody who don't know nothing about the person they hanging out with. Yep. So I'm just saying, we got to be careful about the information we putting out about what happened with Nolan because there's a whole lot of stuff that's going on around this as I listen to some people saying certain things and I'm like, oh, they need to shut the fuck up. You know what I'm saying? I'll be like, they need to shut the fuck up. You gonna fuck this boy case up. The shit they putting out there. And then, like I said, young people today and everything, they hang out with all kind of groups of people, all kinds of friends, all different types of people, and you don't know nothing about them. You don't know nothing about them. So, anyway, y'all, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna round this thing up. Yeah, Jesus could pull you out of any situation if you know him and you know how to pray. People don't learn. They forgot how to learn how to pray. They too busy looking for President Trump to save them, or some politician, or this. No, you look to Jesus Christ. You look to Jesus Christ, and then you will be able to appreciate the president that you have. When you look to Christ, He'll open your eyes and see other things that people don't see. That you won't go be saying the things you be saying about your president when you know Jesus. I just had to tell somebody on a thread in a conversation on Facebook who was up there talking about we ain't no Christian nation. I said, girl, have you? I said, where you been? Do you pledge to our flag? Do you read? Do you pledge to our flag? Do you sing anthems? Do you ever look at your currency on your dollar bill or your $10 bill, $20, or even on a coin where it says in God we trust? Everything in America was symbolized to point to God. Everything. We are a Christian nation, and that's why Trump is going so hard with these Iranians and these other third world countries and everything that bring all this Muslim shit over here to the United States of America. This terrorist shit. And we still got to remember 9/11. It happened right here in America on our soil where this shit never took place. And we got to live among these enemies of ours. And these people are evil because they knew what they were doing. And God hates that. They attacked us when we weren't even bothering them. Okay? They wanted to break into the United States of America. They wanted to get in. They want to put us, terrorize our spirit. That's what they do. That's the first thing they're going to try to do is terrorize, like they're going to tell President Trump how they're going to do this. And President Trump said, I'm locked and I'm loaded. Okay? That's how you got to come at these people because they'll say any little stupid thing, but you ain't going to take them lightly either. But anyway, y'all, I got to go. God bless you. Have a good night. And if God's willing, I'll be back with you all on Sunday. So until then, you all stay safe. Peace.